Welcome, my name is Tashara and this is StarMade. In the last episode we're more or less finished the outside of the ship, except for a couple of details I still want to add. But yeah, there's one thing wrong with this ship. It's still quite empty. So in today's episode I want to change that. So we're mainly going to focus on filling up all the internal space that we have over here. And I'm going to do that deck by deck, except for the most obvious larger parts, for example, the docking areas. That's already mapped out. But yeah, last episode I already did one of the decks, mainly the deck where the bridge is located and connected all the way to the back. But like I said, I'm going to go through everything deck by deck and show you what I did. Each time I'm adding a deck to my ship, especially the larger ships, there's a specific type of order I do them in, specific type of build method I have. And this is the first step I'm usually taking. This is basically adding a whole bunch of lines to see where I want certain rooms, or at least where I can put certain areas within the ship. I already had this area that basically connects to the back airlock over here, with the EVA suits in here as a detail. But you have to take into account how is a player going to move through your ship. So one of the things I'm adding as the initial stage of my deck layout is hallways, if it's appropriate, at least for hallways, because I'm complaining about them in smaller ships sometimes, but in bigger ships they are needed to get from one end of the ship to the other. But I try to avoid the typical one long hallway in the middle of your ship and everything connects to that trope. That's not something that I find interesting within my ship layouts, and I try to think of other ways to do it. And as you can see here as well, I also try to add some asymmetry within my deck layout. So I've got a couple of rooms over here that are laid out that are not mirrored on this end. And I'm using the displays just to make some notes of what type of rooms these are going to be, at least what I think they are going to be, because I can still change my mind. So medical over there, for example, and some sort of hydroponics, or at least something to grow some food in your ship. And then on this side, I believe I had some lab space reserved. Yeah, labs. So yeah, this is basically the more or less medical and scientific area of the ship. It's not going to be that big because yeah, this is not a scientific ship itself in itself. It's a salvage ship. Some other things I changed as well is this area. I'm still struggling with this part over here on the side, because it is something that I wanted to connect to the interior of the ship itself. It is important that I finish this first before I start on the decks on these levels. My idea was to add the escape pods on this side, and I have a couple of them docked here below and some other spaces for possible escape pods on the top, but I think I don't need them. I think the lower ones are good enough to have on both sides. So we've got 8 escape pods in total, and it should house enough people, at least seats for people to evacuate everybody from the ship. So that should work out. So I'm probably going to remove those top docking ports for the escape pods. And here we have the modified version of the detailing on the hull for the escape pod layout. You can't really see that it is escape pods. That's the general ID behind them. These are doors, so you can open them when the escape pods shoots out, and behind that is a window for the escape pod itself, so you can look outside when you're flying in this thing. I also added red doors on this end, so these will be fixed points within the interior that I need to take into account, because you have to be able to access these escape pods from the interior of the ship. So that's also a good point to take into account when you're designing interiors. You will have fixed points within your interior that you have to yeah, like I said, they're fixed. I'm not sure how otherwise to describe them. And one of those things is the main elevator as well. I decided to place that over here because it lined up with my floor I'm working on over here, this layout over here. And I already built up some walls over here and floors and ceilings for this area that I laid out in the previous clip. And in the middle over here we have this sort of hydroponics area with all kinds of plants and things like that, and some robotic arms that are going to be animated. As you can see here, they're docked entities. And they will be this key animated by the animation clock that's on the bridge. And on this side we have some more hallways and an access to the transporter that I've placed over here. So we've got a nice big transporter room with some controls over here to basically beam people up and to the ship. Of course, you can access the transport computer from the transporter pad. So this is just a nice bit of detail adding to it. I decided just to go for the central teleporter room and not place any other teleporters in the ship itself, because in my version of the universe, teleporters are very costly technologies and not something you can place everywhere. Still need to do some more walls and ceilings in areas like this. It's just basically blocking out areas, displacing some light so I can see what I'm doing. But it's not a whole lot of detailing unless I've got a good idea to implement, like I did with the hydroponics over here. So this is, like I said, basically the blockout phase, and this is nothing yet. So I still need to do some more planning on that area. But yeah, this central elevator, this was an important step for me because this will determine a lot of the additional decks I'm going to build here, and of course the doors for the escape pods. Once you have added your fixed points of interest in your ship, like the elevators and things like that, you can create a lot of interesting situations for areas that pop up. For example, I've got this large window looking over the hangar bay over here, and behind this I mapped out a big area for a cafeteria, or at least a area where the crew can eat. And this connects directly to our main elevator over here. And then, of course, because it's a cafeteria, we need a kitchen as well. So I built a kitchen over here, and then we used a lot of the detailing I already created for my galactic trading ship. So it's a variation on kitchen design I used before, but yeah, interpreted for this specific build. Added a area over here, for example, that all the dirty dishes are going to come in. So it's basically you have to place them in here, then they're transported to over here, rinsed, and then put in the dishwashers themselves. And then over here I still have a door and an area to build for a fridge and a storage area for the kitchen. But yeah, it's a beginning for this deck over here. And below here already built a bit of a hallway as well, connecting to the elevator again, and then connecting to the main hangar over here. So yeah, basically deck layouts build themselves this way because you have to connect the different areas between the fixed points that you have. One additional thing I did as well is worked on this area I didn't have before. This leads to our new medical bay. It's not detailed yet, but I've got different areas for doctor's office, things like that. And this is the patient area where the patients will sleep. Well, if it's needed, of course. And then a nursing station, or nurse station, sorry. And then you've got some windows that look into this area from the hallway. So this area is more or less mapped out now, this deck. All the areas are at least in. And then I can continue with the decks below that. Did some additional detailing on the hull over here to connect it a bit more with the area for the escape pods over here. I think this works out. Thinking of perhaps adding some additional detailing, but I'm leaving it like this for now. Just to have something over there. On the inside, I worked on another sort of fixed area that I wanted. This, to be exact, this is the going to be the main reactor area, basically part of the engineering section. Because this is so high, at least it's not one deck height, it's two deck heights. I need to build this now because then I can plan the additional two decks around it without it interfering with the engineering section I want over here. So yeah, another fixed point. The crew area is more or less done. Not with the detailing, of course, but at least blocking it out. And I designed the rest of the deck. So through this door we go to a couple of hallways, and these go to all the different crew quarters. And basically what I did is I created a standard crew quarter design and then copied it over along these hallways. And additionally, what I added is these elevators at the end. So we've got an elevator over here, and on the other side it's mirrored. We've got an elevator over here, so when you go through this hallway, you at least get the feeling that you're always going somewhere. So you can basically go here and then follow this hallway, go there to the other side of the ship, or go to this elevator and then go down or up again. No, that's not true. You can't go up from here. So basically, the access to the floor above is only from the main elevator. So this is an additional way to go down to the rest of the ship. This is a very boring layout in many ways because it is always the same area for the crew. Still need to detail it a bit, and then there's a bathroom over here and it's mirrored on the other side. But my plan is to add all kinds of little personal details to each of the crew quarters, at least most of them, just so they have something to explore when you're looking inside the crew quarters. On this side I do have something else. This is going to be the gym, or it is the gym. This is also based on a design I did for the Galactic Trade Vessel, but again modified for this version of this ship. This is going to be a changing room or something like it. But yeah, this is basically to mirror the area that is the kitchen on this side of the ship. So you've got space for that. But that basically concludes this deck already. So now I can move on to the decks below that connect to the main engineering section. Already did some work over here, so basically connected the elevator to an hallway over here, and then we've got this sort of airlock area that continues into this main reactor room. So we keep everything nice and safe. Yeah, let's continue designing. Besides designing all the specific decks, I also started some work on the docking base over here. As you can see, I added some of the detailing to the ceiling, added some of the detailing to the walls, and then I also need to do that for the smaller areas over here. As you can see here, I did a beam construction similar to the big area, but yeah, designed for these smaller docks. And then I need to add a whole lot of detail to the back wall to make it look a bit more interesting. And of course, find a way to connect it to the rest of the interior of the ship. As you can see here, I did a lot of building on this level and the level above that as well. And I also decided to go for a color coding system. So this is, for example, the yellow deck, at least with the yellow stripes in the hallways, as you can see here. And this is mainly hallway design at the moment, but I'm not really happy with it at the moment because it's a bit too hallway. I'm not sure how to describe it. I've got space in here, but I still need to think how I'm going to divide everything up. It does connect to the escape pods over here, but yeah, it's a bit too many hallways in the way it's laid out at the moment. Above this is the green level over here, and then let's see where we are. Here it is. Yeah, this is the main entrance to the main hangar. Then here's the elevator, and then you can go here. Then you got a number of spaces that connect to the side of the hallways, and we can use that for different things. And I have an example over here. For example, I was going to make this the water treatment area, but I'm going to change that later on. The one over here, this is the electrical part. No, this is not electrical. Air. This is the air treatment area, and I am going to use a bit more interactivity here. So if you press this button over here, then these components pop up. They don't do anything, but they are nice to look at, and have a bit of interactivity in your area. So I want to see if I can do that in different areas of this ship. And this also brings me back to what each deck is going to be, because I've got these color codings now. For example, the deck with all the crew quarters, as you can see over here. This is the brown deck. Then above that I had the blue deck, as you can see here. So this is basically the scientific and lab space. Below that, residential. Then below that, over here, the green deck is going to be basically components, so life support, things like that. Then we've got the yellow deck. It's probably going to be some sort of a workshop area, because this is closely connected to the main hangar and the industrial area that we're going to place below it. Then we've got a deck below this that I haven't mapped out yet, that I'm not sure what is going to be. This is now our main hangar. Added a lot of detailing to it. So I've got some lamps at the ceiling, a whole bunch of components at the back wall of this area, just to make it look more interesting. Got two docking areas in here that I can place either ships or basically parts of ships that are going to ship for components. And then we've got in the middle here our airlock that connects to the rest of the ship. So again, a fixed point for the rest of the interior I need to create. Also did that for the smaller docking areas over here. So this is basically a smaller version with some of the same components that I have in the big one, but slightly different setup. So I've got a smaller docking area over here, and then a similar airlock over here that connects to the rest of the interior. And of course, same for this one. So this is basically the exact same copy of this docked area. The only thing I did change as well is designing color on the last deck. It's going to be orange. So it's basically directly connected to this big area over here that I've got nothing yet. So that's one of the things I have to tackle as well. And that's exactly what I did. So I created this big space with all kinds of interesting elements. And this is going to be my factory floor, sort of. At least the big industrial space within the ship. It fits nicely below the big docking area over here where the containers are shipped out. So that's why I have these two elevator shafts over here on the end of the factory floor. This will connect directly to this floor on top. So basically you produce or at least get the components that you need from the industrial area over here, and then basically transport them to this deck and then ship them out to wherever they need to go. And I also have a connection to this deck height. This is going to be a long hallway that connects the different docking areas like this. Now that I have these fixed points for the cargo elevators in place, I can now work on the logic and the actual elevators as well. So basically I created these doors in the floor, then the elevator comes up, and then you can basically load in new cargo or load off cargo that's meant to be shipped out. I got two buttons on the elevator as well to go up and down, but of course I've got buttons on each of the floors of where the elevator stops. So I've got one over here, so it comes down, then when it's down, then the doors up top close up, then it's everything nice and safe. And of course it stops here and the door opens, or you can go down here and then call the elevator to the actual industrial floor over here to load up your components. Did a bit more detailing, added some interesting components to the back of the wall over here, and then all types of cargo. Got these forklifts here as well to move the cargo around, and then did some additional mapping for connecting this area to the rest of the front of the ship. For example, this is going to be a hallway that connects to some sort of command area for the worker bees. Then stairs downstairs, so you can go lower to one deck below. And this is then the deck where you can access the loading areas over here, and of course the elevator over here to the industrial area that is here. So everything is more or less connected. I still need to work out a connection to this area, but I'm not worried about that because everything that needs to be connected is more or less connected in this version of the ship. So I know what I need to do over here, this area. I know what I need to do to connect to the lower deck of this worker bee area, and I've got a plan for the connection for these storage containers because they are going to be storage. So yeah, it's easy for me to do because I just need to connect it to this hallway over here. Now with the interior more or less mapped out, I'm pretty pleased how this ship is turning out. So it's feeling more alive every time I'm updating it. But the rest of all the details I'm going to put in the interior has to wait for the next episode because this has gone on long enough. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.